Are we at a make or break moment for the silver price and for the gold price? We've got a big week coming up. On Thursday, we're going to get the inflation numbers. And all the top analysts are saying that silver and gold, probably platinum for that matter as well, have been hovering around, have been in no man's land for several months now. And this week, the CPI numbers could be the catalyst for big moves, either up or down in both gold and silver. But let's consider this, right? Let's think about what's going on with inflation right now. And this may not be the best of news for us precious metals investors. We have the price of oil going up. People are talking about renewed price pressures in food as well, that the price of food is going up. Things are getting very dicey out there. Now, what we also need to look at and need to consider is the big picture. And I've got a whole list of other factors that will provide support for the precious metals. However, this week, again, could be very, very challenging. On Thursday, we'll get the CPI numbers. Now, do we believe the CPI numbers? Do you believe the jobs number that came out? We're going to touch on that one more time in this video that came out just yesterday. The unemployment numbers, the jobs numbers from July. Do we believe the GDP numbers? Right? Most people don't. However, the market reacts to it, and it will be a big deal this week because nothing is getting headlines right now like inflation, and nothing's hitting your wallet and my wallet right now like inflation. Whether it's at the gas pump or the grocery store or paying a rent payment, whatever it may be, people are suffering. People are struggling. Let's touch on the jobs numbers just one more time. It is so important, right? We got the jobs numbers yesterday. They were a little lower than expected. I want to talk about a couple key things to consider. Number one, those numbers are painted the most rosy that they can be painted, and the number is suspect to begin with. Furthermore, every single month gets revised down in future months. So while we had a miss yesterday, it's very likely that the miss was even more extreme. CoinShop Chris and I were talking last night. I want to read something to you that is fascinating regarding these jobs numbers, okay? This, my friends, sums up everything about what's going on. This one paragraph, I'm just going to read you one paragraph, all right? But stay with me because remember, the jobs numbers have killed the price of silver, killed the price of gold in the previous months. This says here, putting it all together, if one believes the headlines, in July, the U.S. added 187,000 jobs, and the number of employed workers rose by 268,000 jobs. However, taking a closer look at the composition, we find that in July, the number of well-paid full-time workers collapsed by nearly 585,000 jobs. Guys, full-time good jobs collapsed by almost 600,000 jobs in July. That was offset, okay, by a 972,000 surge in part-time workers. That means people that are, delivering, what's that called, Dine Dash or Diner Dash or whatever, when you go on your phone and you order McDonald's or Taco Bell when you're drunk. Those people that are delivering, okay? So there was a surge in part-time workers. As for the balance, it was the 118,000 people, and we talk about this all the time, how great things are, right? 118,000 people who discovered last month that to keep up with the economic miracle that is Bidenomics, they need to work at least one more job. So those jobs numbers, whatever, right? Okay, 187,000 jobs. Oh, great, great. You know what's going to happen next month? They're going to announce a new jobs number, right? They're going to announce the August jobs number, and then buried, like they do every month, they're going to say, oh, we revised the previous month number down by 34,000 jobs, or we revised it down by 85,000 jobs. That doesn't get the headline. It's so stupid, crazy. It's maddening. Okay, Peter Grandich and I talked about him. Peter's been in this since the 80s. You know, he's like the whole make-believe numbers about the economy are maddening. And in the end, it's so important for us to remember, right? We're going to win in the end. Gold and silver have always won in the end. Always. Always. Yes, temporarily, they can use smoke and mirrors, and that's a prime example of smoke and mirrors. Do you need any more of an example, right? Right? 900-some thousand part-time jobs created, part-time jobs with no benefits, right? 118,000 people who have to now work second and third jobs. I'm even hearing about people working fourth jobs just to make ends meet. But that's what they're basing these market moves on. You got to be kidding me. That's what they're killing the silver price and gold price with? Are you serious? Are you serious? The GDP grew at 2.4%. I'll say it one more time. Our government is spending over $1 trillion. I think the number is, I'm gonna read the specifics to you in a little bit because it's crazy that our government is spending, I think, $1.4 trillion more per year right now than they're bringing in. Okay, it's a deficit, fancy word, right? It's a hole. It's a vicious cycle, however you want to say it. And they're only able to squeeze 2.4% out of it. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I don't know if it's like if you have a race car and you're putting super fuel into it and you're not getting anything more. It's just maddening. In the end, the silver and gold value, and that's the important part, the value of your silver and gold, the value, not the price. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares what it's worth in this stuff, right? This is paper. This is going to be worthless someday. It's unicorn fart dust, right? It's make-believe. When I was 1 year old in 1971, I remember the day. My mama had me in the crib. I was laying there, and then ABC Evening News, President Nixon has abandoned the gold standard. And man, my mom didn't know what was wrong with me, but I was crying like no tomorrow. No binkies, no warm milk, nothing would make it better. Ever since then, right? I was 1 year old. I was pissed. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to use that word. I was angry. Right? But ever since then, right? The dollar's based on nothingness. I'm not going to go down that path, okay? But we've been dealing with strong economic. That's the new, like the last 6 weeks, right? What's been is gold and silver in no man's land? Why have gold and silver been in no man's? Because the economy's so strong. Bidenomics, the Joe Biden economic miracle. Aren't you enjoying it? All this newfound wealth? That's been killing the price of silver. That's been killing the price of gold. The strong economy. That means Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve can keep raising rates because they're supposed to be fighting inflation, which they're really not. Lynette Zhang and I talked about this in our most recent interview. Watch it if you haven't. They're not really trying. They can't fight inflation, okay? If they really wanted to fight inflation, they would have done it a long time ago. If they really fought inflation right now, you know what would happen? The whole system would collapse because it is, hey, thank you for the super chat. Wow. I'll recognize it. Here we go. Wrath of Khan. Thank you. Always appreciated. Always needed. Thank you. I appreciate it. But if they're not really wanting to fight inflation, but it's a strong economy, right? It's a great, strong economy. Look at the job open. Look at all the jobs they're creating. BS. Not the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, not the BLS. It's just the BS, right? Here's a fact. Here's another interesting fact for you, right? The number of job openings down, down, down. Some sectors down as much as like 80,000 jobs as compared to a year ago. Things like transportation, warehousing, right? We know the trucking industry. We got news from the independent, not a government agency, the independent agency, the United States Truckers Association, whatever it's called. I don't know, the big organization that represents all the big trucking companies. The freight volumes right now compared, thank you for the super chat, Keaton. Wow, Keaton Moran. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. The volumes right now compared to 1 year ago are down by 10%. That is significant. That means there's 10% less goods. There's 10% less parts for the supply chain for manufacturing moving around the country. What does that tell you? What about Caterpillar? You ever hear of a company called Caterpillar? They make giant bulldozers and all types of earth-moving equipment. They warned that things are starting to slow down. They're starting to see some issues, right? And think about this is where you got to put your thinking cap on. But think about it. Caterpillar's involved in the equipment they sell is used at the very beginning of the construction process, the earth moving process. If that's dying, that means the pipeline is getting dry. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you, because that's a key thing to understand, right? It's not like they're at the end of the process. They're not selling the carpet that goes in the new houses or the new buildings. They're not selling the light fixtures, right? They're selling the product that's at the very beginning of the pipeline, and it's slowing down. Now, it wasn't like, alarms, but they indicated that they're seeing some trouble coming down the road. So we've got all this great economic data that's killing the silver price, killing the gold price. This week, massive week. The inflation, right? That's the big word, the I word. Right? The Fed's fighting inflation, but they're really not. They're really not. But this week, they're going to use that to move the markets. Be prepared, okay? Last week was bumpy, all right? But it could be another bumpy week. It could also be a very good week, but things are brewing under the surface. We got all this strong economic data. Everything's so great. Did you hear the news? There was a little news story this week, and they're in big trouble. Now we got big trouble. These guys are in huge trouble. Let me take a sip of coffee. Let me ask you a question. If the U.S. economy is so strong and we're all doing so great, right? Why did Fitch downgrade the U.S. debt? And that's a big deal. But first, let me ask you another question. If the economy's so great, think back 2 years ago. One of the subscribers sent me this or put it in the comment section, and it just really, I think, sums everything up. If the economy is so good, I want you to think back 2 years ago. 2 years ago right now. Are you better off right now than you were 2 years ago? What about 5 years ago? But no, we're not in a recession. Everything's great. So Fitch downgrades, okay? That has been a big story, right? And they said basically two things. Number one, the fiscal situation in the United States. Number two, basically, in so many words, that our government stinks, that our elected leaders are no good. They no confidence, basically, in the elected officials in Washington. And mathematically, I guess, apparently the guys over at Fitch have good batteries in their calculators, because they were able to do some basic mathematics, and realize that there is no way that the situation we have in the United States is sustainable, okay? And guys, when this all comes to a head, right, I understand it's very confusing. There's a lot of moving parts. You got the national debt, you got the deficit, you got interest rates, you got this. Look, you can look at it very simply, and I'm doing this right now too. This will give you some solace, right? It's so confusing. And the reason why it's so confusing is because it's so screwed up. It's so delicate. It's so bubblegum and duct tape what they've done. It's a tragedy what they've done. But set all that aside and remember something very simple. Silver and gold and platinum have always held their value. Okay? Look at silver over some people say 5,000 years. Look at gold. So when it gets very confusing and your head starts spinning, right, and you're not alone, okay, they want your head to spin. They want our heads to be confused. They don't want us to understand. They want you to watch Dancing with the Stars. They don't want you to watch Ron's Basement. No. Because then you might wake up, and it's not just Ron's Basement, right? There's better people out there than me, no doubt about it. But I do my best, and I connect with so many of you, and that's such a big deal. Okay, thank you for being here. Thank you for the thumbs up, right? If we get to 100, I'm going to ring the bell, and thank you. 250 people on a Saturday morning. I mean, hey, I appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will put out a new piece of content every day for the rest of my life. Depending on who lives longer, you may just have a new friend for life. We got 100 thumbs up. Let's ring the bell. Let's ring the good old bell here. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. I'm going to ring it 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So, Fitch, why would Fitch downgrade the United States? You know, right? Could it be? Could it be? Let me read this. This is frightening. This is downright frightening, the state that they've gotten us to. Hold on. Here's the headline. Oh, wrong one. That's another frightening one. I got another frightening one for you too, so hold on for that. Here we go. The U.S. government to borrow $1 trillion in Q3 as deficit widens. Debt servicing cost shatters 11-year high. Okay. The Treasury Department says it has increased its Q3 borrowing estimate to it's 1.007 trillion. So that's $1.007 trillion. Geez, what comes next? Dollars. Significantly higher than what they estimated in May. Just in May, they thought they were only going to need to borrow $700 billion. Oh, that's a little bit of a mistake there, guys. Maybe we should call Janet Yellen. Do you think maybe we should tell Janet, who heads the Treasury Department, and have her talk to the people over at Fitch and see if they can get the same calculators that they're using over at Fitch, because Fitch has it figured out. The Treasury says the increase is primarily due to the, quote, lower beginning of quarter. They got some BS reason why. Here, this is where it's interesting. During the 9 months through June, the 9 months through June, the federal deficit hit $1.39 trillion. Okay, that's $1.39 trillion. A 170% increase from the same period the year before. The deficit went up by 170%, but where our economy is good? Okay. According to Bloomberg, the weighted average interest that the U.S. is paying on its outstanding debt right now hit 2.75% at the end of June, which is the highest level in more than 11 years. Let me repeat this because this is critical, okay? We're in a vicious, horrible cycle, guys. This is serious. I'm not joking around here. This is bad. Bloomberg said the weighted average interest that the U.S. is paying on its outstanding debt, 2.76%. Let me give you a visual. You've got a massive pile of debt, $33 trillion. Okay? That's horrific. That's doomsday. I don't care how you slice it or dice it. On top of that, you've got a government that right now is spending $1.4 trillion on an annual basis more than they're bringing in. So that's adding to that massive pile of debt. And now we get news from Bloomberg. This is what we've all been worried about, that the actual average interest rate they're paying on that big pile of debt, which is growing because of the deficit, is also going through the roof. Okay? That's the highest rate they've had to pay in over 11 years. That's the average on all that debt. That's why the guys at Fitch pulled out their calculators and were absolutely sickened by what they saw. Now, okay, let's get back to silver and gold, right? Eventually, that falls apart. Silver and gold hold their value. What's going to happen because of all that debt? Interest rates could continue to go up. What happens if interest rates continue to go up? The banks run into problems. What happened the last time banks went into a problem phase? Let me remind you that from March of this year through May, the price of silver alone went up by 30%. Because people are getting nervous. People are starting to wake up to what's going on. People can do basic math, okay? More and more people are starting to realize that this is not a sustainable situation, all right? And what are they going to do? They're going to look for ways to preserve their wealth. And where are they going to look? You're right. You know where they're going to look. They're going to look to silver and gold and platinum, real assets, land, right? Oil, real assets. But at the top of the list, right, we'll have silver, gold, platinum, we'll have the metals. And it's not going to take a lot of people joining us for a big impact to occur, right? It's like the sentiment in our sector. Look, our sentiment, you and I, right, you love coming to the basement. I love having you here. It's Saturday morning. It's so awesome you're joining me. You belong here. You're a basement dweller, right? But let's be real. We are an echo chamber. Meaning, sure, we want to look at everything from as many angles as we can, but we love silver and gold. We have that bond in common, okay? But overall sentiment in the rest of the world, if it was on an A to F scale, I think it'd be close to an F, right? The overall sentiment in the precious metal sector is not great, but that's good news. Don't leave, okay? Don't leave, because that's good news. Because you know what? It's a heck of a lot easier to improve from an F to a D to a C than it is to go from an A minus to an A plus. All right. So even just that little move from F to D is going to be big demand coming into the precious metals. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful day. I can't wait. Right. I've said it. And it's not just me. Have you ever heard of a company called TD Securities? Okay. If you haven't heard of them, have you heard of Wells Fargo? Oh, if you haven't heard of them, I know you've heard of this next company. It's everybody's favorite company, headed up by our favorite CEO in the whole wide world, the Honorable Jamie Dimon. Okay? All three of those companies, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, TD Securities, all have recently put out reports very positive on the precious metals. They're saying that we could have record highs by the end of the year. So are people starting to wake up? Are the big firms starting to wake up? It's probably not going to happen overnight, right? But the fact that the big firms are starting to see that there's value, let's say, to be had in the metals is a good thing for us. Are you ready? That would be my next question for you. Are you really ready? Sure, you think you're ready. I understand. I think I'm ready too. But are you really ready? What are you going to do if the value of your metals skyrockets? What are you going to do? Oh, you think you're ready, right? I mean, it's fun to dream, right? And know and feel like, oh, it's good. I think that's why you own silver. That's why you own gold. But are you really ready? Because you don't want your dream to turn into a nightmare. Because let me tell you what, when the value, and I'm not talking about the price, I'm not talking about the dollar price, although it will be reflected in fiat currency, but if the system really goes to crap, right? And we really have some major big changes. And don't rule that out, guys. I'm not preaching that, oh, be prepared because by December, there's going to be anarchy. And no, I'm not saying that. But can it happen, right? Can it at some point in the future happen where we have a massive change that occurs? Unfortunately, our leaders have put us in a position where it looks like that could be more and more likely. And should we rule it out? Well, let me give you a quick history lesson, okay? The Romans ruled the world for a long time. The Dutch ruled the world for a long time. The Spanish ruled the world for a long time. The British ruled the world for a long time. All of those empires eventually, unfortunately, met their demise, right? And hyperinflation type events occurred. Look what happened in Weimar Germany during the period leading up to World War II. So, yes, it can happen. You could find yourself in bizarre numbers to think about, but you could find yourself in a situation where, measured in worthless dollars, and we don't want this to happen. We didn't, but we didn't create the conditions that make it possible. But if it were to happen, you could see $600 silver. You could see $6,000 silver. Okay. But that doesn't really matter because that's measuring it in what would become and even more become worthless paper money. So what are you going to do in that? Do you have a plan? Are you going to try to buy some land? Are you going to try to buy some houses, real estate? Are you going to pay off debt? Are you going to convert? Here's where it can be tricky and the dream can turn into a nightmare. You wake up one day and you say, oh my God, silver doubled. It went from $32 to $64. I'm cashing out. And you convert, right? You convert your silver into paper money at $64. And then 3 weeks later, it's $600, right? You got to have a plan. And please, this is just my opinion, not offering financial advice, but think about it. Have a plan in place. But please, the only thing I would say I really don't recommend is that people do everything at once. Whether you're going to buy a large amount of precious metals or convert it into something else, right? Coin Shop Chris, I said that right. Convert, right? Don't do it all at one fell swoop. You could make a wonderful, awesome timed decision, but you could also more likely put yourself in a situation where you wish you'd done things little by little. Dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out. That would be my recommendation. Let's go to the comments. Hey, if you guys, well, here's your chance. If you'd like to be featured on Ron's Basement, 3 question marks, okay, and I'll talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I'm ready. Hello, Thomas Drellick. What's your best price for generic silver? Yeah, Coin Shop Chris is the guy to talk to about that. I really appreciate you guys being here and being part of the basement. It's a big deal, okay? It's a huge deal. And I'm telling you, absolutely, the general group of people that gather here on these live streams and comment and engage are very nice, very intelligent people. Okay? Dig a well and start a farm. Yeah, that's a great point, Jonathan Britton. The other thing that you need to be prepared for, at least mentally, is what you would do if things got very difficult. Food, water, protection, right? We've talked about that several times, but it can't, it bears repeating. Okay, Sassy Silver, good to see you. Thomas Drellick, trying to build a monster box from different mints. I'm going to look for some questions here. 3 question marks. Okay, that's going to get my attention, guys. Okay. Penthouse Dweller, Basement Visitor. Thank you, Mark Goschow. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you to all the mods. Thank you to Coin Shop Chris. Thank you to Neil from Neil Hahn's Dynasty. Thank you to Mary. Okay, you guys. Thank you to Susie. Susie does so much to make this happen, right? She's dealing with twin 11-year-old daughters. We have sleepovers all the time, and Susie still delivers, helps out with the channel. Coin Shop Chris, busy guy, and helps out. So thank you guys. Let's go down to the bottom. Okay. Hello, Abram. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks again for the gold backs. I will be giving those away. Okay. Mark has 9,000 fiat dollars to spend. Should he buy a kilo or 10-ounce bars? So a kilo bar is, gosh, if I say this wrong, I'm going to embarrass myself, about, 30-something ounces? I would say that's 6 or 1/2 dozen the other, Mark, but I do think that's a smart move. If you compare the premium on a percentage basis on what you're going to pay for 10-ounce bars or kilo bars, I would compare those premiums and see which one. And then to me, I would probably, if there's a noticeable difference, go one way or the other. I would also compare the premium, because premiums have gotten goofy lately on silver products, guys. So, Mark, I would compare the premiums that you're going to spend on the 10-ounce and kilo bars to even some of the 1-ounce sovereign coins, because I've seen some great prices on some of the sovereign coins, the Britannias in particular. What was the one I saw the other day? Oh, the Austrian Philharmonics I saw on one of the sites. I think it was Pimbex, Pimbex. They are going to be a sponsor of Ron's Basement starting in about a week, mid-August. It's a company I've worked with that on my own before I took the sponsorship opportunity, which I'm very grateful for. I'm not making a commission off of it. Anything you buy, I'm not giving you a link, but I would check out Pimbex, Pimbex, and look at what their prices are on some of the 1-ounce coins, okay? And they get great ratings, great reviews, and I worked with them. I bought silver from them. I've been very happy. And there's, shop around. I always recommend, okay? Salty Monkey. Ron, can you explain why 1/10 and 1/4 ounce platinum eagles are around 20% over spot? Yes, I think I can, Salty Monkey. And if somebody else wants to chime in, because I'm often wrong, but when you buy the smaller size fractional coins, whether it's 1/10 ounce, 1/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce. Hey, thank you. Wow, look at these super chats. Wow, thank you, Neil. Man, after all you do, thank you, Neil from Neil Hahn's Dynasty. Thank you, Mr. Monitor. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the super chats. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Why are 1/10 ounce coins? Why are 1/4 ounce coins? Why are 1/2 ounce coins? Whether you're talking silver, gold, platinum, why are the premiums always so much higher? It's because it costs the mints more money. It costs them just as much to make a 1/10 ounce coin not from the metal perspective, but from the actual process of making it, as it does to make a 2 ounce or a 1 ounce coin. A 1 ounce coin is going to be the more common. So since it's such a small amount of metal, that added expense becomes a higher percentage in terms of a premium. That's why, honestly, I have very little. I have most of the silver that I have is either in 1 ounce increments, and I've gotten to a point that I'm more interested in sovereign coins at this point, or I like these. I hold this one up all the time, 10-ounce bars. And this one is from Mint up in Massachusetts. It's a 0.9999. Okay. Hey, if you guys do go to Pimbex, do tell them that that you heard about them on Ron's Basement. Again, I'm not. They're gonna sponsor my channel. It's for a set little amount of money. They're gonna pay me to talk about them because I believe in them. Okay. I wouldn't be talking about that company unless I'd already worked with them previously and believe in them. And they do have great prices, Very competitive. I'm not going to say absolutely the best on everything anywhere, but extremely competitive, and they're reliable. But it'd be nice if you let them know, if you ever do buy anything there, that you heard about them on Ron's Basement. Okay? CNT. Yes, that's a CNT bar. That 10-ounce bar. And that is a 0.9999. Now, I'll tell you what else I've learned about that, because I really got into only buying silver that was 4/9 purity, and it doesn't hurt, right? But I read several articles that said there's basically very, very, very little difference between 3/9 and 4/9. And for those of you that don't know what that means, is almost any silver product you buy will have that stamped on there. If you see, if that is able to focus, see the 4.9999. It seems to me, most silver products are 3/9 purity, and there's really not that huge of a difference, like very negligible between a 4/9 product and a 3/9 product. So anyway, Thomas Drellick says both the RCM Britannia and Scottsdale Stackers. Yes, let me see. More questions, guys. 3 question marks. We got some great stuff. Hello, Sarge. Neil, thank you again for the super chat. Man, after all you do, you're the last guy. That's very generous of you. Thank you. It helps a lot. Mr. Monitor, thank you. Let me read your comment, Mr. Monitor. Walmart has 100-ounce silver bars for $2,514. It's not really a bad deal, is it? You know, without being able to look it up, what I would do is, if I think something's a good deal, then I might go look at some other websites. I would look at Pimbex, Pimbex. I bought a 100-ounce bar from them not too long ago. Compare the price. I would look at the big guys, SD Bullion, JM Bullion. Compare the price, okay? You want to make sure you're getting a good quality product, okay? Walmart has, those are third-party sellers. So you just want to make sure you're getting a good quality product and that it's from a reliable seller, okay, at the best price or at a very competitive price. Sometimes it's okay to pay a little more if you have a level of assurance. I wouldn't pay a lot more, but shop around and see what you find out, okay? It's easy to do. It would take you 2 minutes to go to a couple of the big websites, SD Bullion, JM Bullion, and again, like I said, right, I keep talking about them, but check out Pimbex. These guys are really cool. There's 2 brothers that started this company back in 2022. They're both CPAs. They're younger guys. They're in their mid-30s, and they have this mission to get silver and gold at the best price into as many people's hands as possible. And I actually approached them, and I'm not bragging, but I've been offered all kinds of sponsorships from bullion companies, okay? Not probably 20 to 40. It's hard for me to remember over the last year. And everyone I looked at, I'm like, nope, I wouldn't buy, and nothing against these companies, but in Pimbex, I bought on my own, and then I had said, hey, if you guys ever want to sponsor my channel, and then like 3 months later, they like, we've been watching you, we like your audience, and so now it looks like that's going to happen. Anyway, enough of that. You guys don't want to hear about all that, do you? Hello, Sarge. Hello. I'm looking for questions. I'm going down for a tube. Ricky Watts, Monument Metals. Yes, I've heard good things about them. Okay. There's a lot of different companies out there. Just make sure you're getting good products. Okay. Karen Wilson. Karen. That reminds me of one of my favorite subjects. I got a big reminder for you guys. Remember this date, June 14th. And it's going to be every year till the end of time. Okay. June 14th is International Women's Silver Day. See, I got it on this little piece of paper. June 14th. Oh, there. June 14th. All right. Guys and gals, lady stackers, it's a big deal that we have so many women coming into the precious metal sector. It's a big deal. Lynette Zhang, I was talking to her the other day, she was a pioneer, right, for women. You've got Daniela Camboni. She's helped. There's others as well. I don't want to forget anybody, but we have more and more. Coin Shop Chris tells me more and more women. The women, it's important. They make like most of the purchase decisions. Somebody sent me an article the other day. I forget, but women make that is good on any level that we have the women coming in. Anyway, Karen had a question. Now I can't find Ann Williams. Right? Okay. I mean, look at this. It's awesome. Debbie. Okay. 100 for Coin Shop Chris. Yeah. We love Coin Shop Chris. I'm yelling. Sorry. Susie says I can't yell anymore, so I'm trying to talk softly. Karen Wilson. Is it better to store silver coins in the plastic sleeve they come in or the hard plastic tubes? I don't really know the answer to that question. Maybe Coin Shop Chris could chime in. I would think the plastic tubes would be better. Although if you go to take them out, and I've asked people, I think they get, it's a little harder to get them out of the tubes and you run the risk of scratching them a little bit. Again, I'm not a coin or numismatic guru. But if you do send me an email, Karen, my email address is ronsbasementsilver@gmail.com. I could forward it to Coin Shop Chris, and he is very generous, very extremely generous in terms of helping viewers with their questions. Okay, guys, we can get to 200 thumbs up, and that helps get the word out about silver and gold. Can we do it? And then I'll ring old Joe Fowler's cowbell right there. Yeah. I know, big treat, right? Nothing like seeing a guy in his basement ring a cowbell, but hey, we'll take what we can get. All right? Okay. Stay away from Walmart. Yeah, that's what thank you, Coin Shop Chris. Walmart has a lot of third-party sellers on their website. And so if you can find that 100-ounce bar you were talking about at one of the big sellers at the same price or lower, I would recommend buying it than just directly from one of the big bullion dealers, okay? And I'd be curious, if somebody has a second, I'd be curious if and I forget what his price was. Where was that? Ah, shoot. Well, anyway, how that Walmart price compares for a 100-ounce bar to some of the, Ricky's House of Crap. Ricky, good to see you, Ricky. I always think of my best friend, Little Ricky. I haven't been talking to Little Ricky much lately, but we've been best friends since the 3rd grade. Hey, Ricky's House of Crap says not sell, don't ever sell or convert. Store your American Silver Eagles and rounds in tubes, not flips. That's what I was thinking too, because they're going to be more airtight within the tubes. Sassy Silver. Well, that's good. Somebody loves my humor. I can tell you Susie gets a little tired of it, so thank you, Sassy Silver. Why has platinum dropped so quickly? Maybe Neil can chime in on that one. Neil from Neil Hahn's Dynasty. Check out his channel, guys. He's the platinum guru. Okay? He knows more about platinum than anybody I know, knows way more than I know about platinum. There is a strong story behind the value proposition offered from platinum right now. Okay? Wow. Man, you guys are just unbelievable. Some great comments. Ricky's House of Crap. Ron, I think 23 in silver holds, and maybe August 22nd provides a jolt. Great comment, Thomas. Okay. Yeah, I would, if I had to make a prediction, yes, I would say 23 in silver holds. August 22nd is a big day, a huge day, okay, potentially for the precious metals sector. That's the BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, where my great-grandpa came from. And there was all this noise, all this talk about, oh, the BRICS are going to start a currency to get away from the dollar, de-dollarization. And then a few weeks ago, we got all these big stories, and I jumped on it as well, okay? I am guilty. I stand guilty. Stories were coming out saying that they were going to actually announce a gold-backed currency, which would be groundbreaking, would be massive for the silver and gold sector. Okay, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to ruin the parade here, but I want to manage expectations as well. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, guys. There was a report out of Sputnik, the Russian news agency, from an official at the Kremlin who basically said, didn't say anything about a gold-backed currency, but he basically said that this idea of an announcement of a new currency for the BRICS to use, right? That it's a little mature, that it's not going to happen. It's very complicated. A lot of it has to do with India, because India's kind of got a foot in both, right? They're in BRICS, but they're also very allied with the Western countries. I may have this wrong, because I can't Google stuff and look it up when I'm talking, but I believe they're also part of the G7 or the G12, I don't know, whatever. So we're probably not going to get an announcement of a gold-backed currency, but we could get news stories and announcements that could still be very, very constructive to the precious metals market, okay, coming out of this big BRIC summit, because things are moving, man. I mean, like, all the countries that are going to be there, it's going to be interesting. And that's 17 days from today, right? I mean, we know, don't get me started, all right? All right, you got me started. This is your fault, right? We know central banks around the world are buying gold at a record pace. What does that tell us? They are the most sophisticated financial institutions in the world. I'm trying not to yell because Susie will then yell at me, okay? What does that tell us? What are they doing? What are the central banks? They're buying more gold than any other time. The last time they bought this much gold, the world was on the gold standard. Does that scratch your head on that one for a second, right? We know that the nations of the world, the central banks of the world, are repatriating their gold, bringing it home, because they have this little philosophy you may have heard of. What does it mean? If you don't hold it, you don't own it? Yeah. Is that what the central banks of the world are saying? Right? We know it's announcement after announcement of countries moving away from the U.S. dollar. Now, the dollar likely isn't going to disappear overnight. No way, right? Very unlikely. However, the world is taking moves to move away from the dollar. We know, we already talked about the debt situation in this country. It's just, the song remains the same, okay? And like Lynette Zhang said when I was talking to her earlier in the week, it's like things seem so crazy and confusing because they are. I don't think she said it exactly that way, but because we're likely near the end, right? And it feels like never. Stuart Englert, who wrote the book on silver and gold manipulation, I was talking to him. I need to talk to him again. He's a good guy, okay? But anyway, he said, right? He said, I'm like, when's it going to happen, Stuart? He says, I don't know. We've been waiting 15 years, right? When's the market going to blow? When's the COMEX going to blow? We haven't talked about the COMEX and the LBMA. I haven't even been watching what the inventory levels are doing there. But, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy time. Hold on. Question. Okay. Sim Racer number 40 has a question. If banks are buying metals, what is most likely to happen? If the banks are buying the metals, referring to the central banks, it only means one thing, okay? It means that they see value in holding the precious metal. Yes, that barbarous relic gold, right? Wasn't that Ben Bernanke who said that? All right? It can only mean one thing. They aren't converting, right? And they're not buying. Gosh darn it. The central banks do it too. They're converting worthless fiat into real metals. This is great. I almost forgot about this. And I did not make this up. I got this from Bald Guy Money. He's awesome. Another YouTube channel. Very smart guy. Go check out some of his videos. Tell him Ron from Ron's Basement sent you over there, right? Listen to other people, not just me. Listen to yourself, okay? But listen to other people. Form your own opinions. But Bald Guy had this, what I think was one of the most insightful thoughts of the year regarding the precious metals. Because everybody's always asking, are they going to confiscate? Are they going to confiscate? They're going to confiscate my metals, right? Hold on, I want to write that down. Right? Confiscate. Are they going to confiscate your metals? You know? And he said, well, they don't have to confiscate your metals. They don't have to come take your silver or your gold. Okay, this was groundbreaking, what he came up with. They don't have to. They're not going to, very most likely, at least not in this environment right now, on the near-term horizon. You know why? You know why they had to confiscate the metals back in 1933? It's very simple why. We were in the Great Depression. The dollar was backed by gold. It was tethered to gold. If they wanted to make more dollars, they had to have more gold. So think about it. They needed more dollars. They needed to make these work programs to, get us out of the Depression. So what did they do? They couldn't print money back then. They had to confiscate everybody's gold, right? Which they did. And then they immediately revalued it higher. So now they had all this extra gold and they revalued it higher in dollar terms. They were able to kind of print money in their own form when they were under the gold standard. What's critical for you to understand right now is if the central banks want gold, they don't have to confiscate it. They can kind of do it backdoor. They can just print money because they can print as much money as they want. As much as they want. And then they can use that to acquire things like silver and gold. Think about it. We just got 200 thumbs up. All right. I'm going to ring it a little more. They don't have to. They don't have to take your silver. They can take it. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be awesome if you could just print some of this and then go to your local coin store and say, yeah, I want 8 ounces of gold and 500 ounces of silver. That's what the central banks can do, right? Think about that. That was Bald Guy Money, right? I love Bald Guy. He is a great guy. We're going to do a collaboration in a couple weeks. So go check out Bald Guy. Tell him Ron from Ron's Basement sent you, okay? That you arrived at the Bald Guy from the basement, right? Need more cowbell. More cowbell. All right. That's for you, salty monkey. You old salty monkey, you. Oh, my gosh. Hold on. Questions? Marshmallows. Hey, Sarge. Good to see you. Wrath of Khan. Coin Shop Chris. Thank you. Neil from Neil Hans Dynasty. Thank you. Thank you for the super chats. You guys have been super generous with me today, and it goes a long way. Okay? You'll never guess where we're going tonight. Six Flags. Question. Okay, we already answered that one. Tunnel from the this is an interesting question. Tunnel from the Playboy Mansion to Jack Nicholson's house. Why? Well, I can only imagine. I'll leave that one alone. Okay? Come on, guys. I'm ready. 3 question marks. Hit me. What's the big coin on your left? The big coin on my left. This is not a coin. This is really cool. It came from one of the viewers who wishes to remain anonymous. This is another bell, but this is made out of silver. That is a silver bell. Okay, and listen to it when it rings. It sounds different. Absolutely wonderful, heartwarming. Here's a coin. really cool that came from Coin Shop Chris. It's a round. Can you see that? Hopefully that's focused for you. That is an Indian head. It's a buffalo on the other side. Really beautiful. This here, you know what, my buddy? This is a piece of silver. That's what silver looks like, guys, when it's in the ground. That's a piece of silver ore from a silver mine in Idaho, okay? This came from my friend Ronnie, all right? Actually, he called me last night. He's up in Sturgis, and he's with his buddy that, or his uncle, I don't know, one of his relatives that gave this to him to give to me. That's silver. I think this must be at least 20 ounces. And he said, hey, what was that video where you talked about it? I said, I have no idea. So next time I talk about it, I'll tell you. I'll have to tell him it's at the end of this one. Hi, Ronnie. Have fun. Be safe up in Sturgis, okay? Boo-boo. Okay. Keith Burkinell says, when do you switch from buying silver to gold? What's the gold-silver ratio number? You know, that's a great question, Keith. When do you switch from silver to gold? Because I'm all silver right now, okay? I have gold mining stocks. But that's a great question because that goes along with what we talked about earlier. What are you going to do if the price of silver skyrockets, right? What are you going to do? And and I forgot to bring this up during that, right? Yeah, sure, you can trade your silver for land. You can trade your silver for a house. You can trade your silver for whatever. Pay off debt, whatever. Okay. But another key thing to consider is the silver to gold ratio. So I thank you for bringing that up, because if we get in a situation where silver, gold are going crazy, and let's say we get back to let's say right now, it takes about 80 ounces of silver to buy an ounce of gold. That's rough, okay? It's probably maybe a little bit more than that. But anyway, if we get to a point where you can take 20 ounces of silver and buy an ounce of gold, it might be a smart move, right? So have a plan. I would look probably at the 40 range of maybe converting a little bit of silver, maybe in my particular situation, maybe 10% of my silver into gold, and maybe say, okay, at 40, and then if it gets to 35, I'll do another 10%. If it gets to 30, I'll do another 10%. If it gets to, you know what I'm saying? Do it in little sections. I'm telling you, it's hard. What happens is emotions get involved, and you want to have a plan, okay? That's why you want to have a plan. Otherwise, emotions take over, and that's what happens to 90% of people, and they wind up making investment or conversion decisions based on emotion, and it can be wrong. What does your crystal ball say? My buddy Rumble crystal ball definitely says $2,600 gold in 2024. Okay. Oh, Neil. Hello, Neil. Looks like you're joining us from the UK. If you had to pay a 20% value added tax, would you buy? I guess you're asking me, would I do that to buy silver? Man, I feel for you guys that have to pay this 20%. For those of you who don't know, a value added tax is a tax that people in Europe and I believe the UK have to pay when they buy silver. I think sometimes in India they do it as well. So if you go to buy an ounce of silver at $25, and it costs $25, not buy, convert, and it costs $25, you got to pay another $5 in value added tax. It's crazy. I feel for you. I don't know that I would do it, but if I was forced to do it, I may do it. Marsh Maz brings up a great point. It's theft. Yeah. You know, it's like me taking a $10 bill, excuse me, to the bank and asking for 10 $1 bills and them saying, sorry, there's a 20%, tax. So they only give me 8 back. I mean, it makes no sense. Gold and silver are more money than that paper stuff anyway. It's a real tragedy and theft, right? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. for being here. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you for the thumbs up. Please, if you haven't, give it a thumbs up. That would help get this out to more people. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, I put out a piece of content every day. We do work really hard, right? I'm not complaining, but to come up with interesting angles on what's going on in the silver and gold market, you aren't going to find a guy who's more optimistic about the future of silver and gold than me, and I believe that most of you share that with me. So we get together all the time. I'm going to look forward to seeing you next time. You are important. You are special. Thank you, Neil. Okay. Thank you guys for all the super chats. It's awesome. And of course, thank you, CoinShop Chris, for all your help always. All right. And I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.